How's it going, everybody? I'm Stella Chung, and this is the Weekly Fix, the show where we round up all the gaming and entertainment headlines you may have missed this week. Magic the Gathering recently had a Lord of the Rings themed set, and the one ring to rule them all has been found, plus the release date of Baldur's Gate 3 has been pushed. In the entertainment world, more allegations have surfaced against Jonathan Majors, and Disney Plus is pulling tons of content from the platform. Good to be back. Let's jump right into it.
If you're into Magic the Gathering or you're into the Lord of the Rings, congratulations, you're a nerd. No, I'm just kidding. Not really, but the Lord of the Rings Magic set is in the hands of players everywhere, and the One Ring card has been found. If you're not familiar with the One Ring, well, Sauron forged it to gain dominion over the free peoples of Middle-earth. But, more to the point, it's a one-off card randomly inserted into the new Magic packs, or at least it was until some anonymous person found it, undoubtedly freaked out for a bit, and then shipped it off to be professionally graded. It got a 9, which on the IGN rating scale is amazing, but on the PSA rating scale, it's mint. How is an uncirculated, unplayed card not a perfect 10? Well, 10s are rare in the world of grading, and there are circumstances beyond the control of the card's owner that kept it from grabbing that elusive 10 out of 10. But honestly, who cares? This lucky person, who surely isn't Gollum, unless...
Yes, precious.
No, it's definitely not Gollum. Anyway, card collecting company Dave and Adam's Card World initially offered $1 million for the card before upping the amount to $2 million earlier this month. If the sale goes through, it will be the most expensive Magic the Gathering card and one of the most expensive trading cards ever sold. Coming after you, Honus Wagner, you old... That's a lot of money to spend on a card that will never see a second of playtime and also has all of its text written in the corrupted form of Elvish, favored by the Dark Lord. It beats out the previous most expensive Magic card, a Black Lotus, that sold for $540,000 in March. Anyway, congrats to whoever ended up with that card, and enjoy your windfall. Maybe use the money to buy a Black Lotus card. Then you'll always be known as the person who owned the two most valuable Magic cards. That's pretty special. The entirety of The Lord of the Rings takes a long time to read through, but nowhere near as many hours as there are cutscenes in the upcoming Baldur's Gate 3. In fact, the devs even call out Lord of the Rings in their community update on Steam, saying, quote, Baldur's Gate 3 has more cinematic dialogue than 3 times all 3 of the Lord of the Rings novels combined, end quote. And it has 174 hours of cinematics. That is too many hours, I think. They brag that it's twice as long as the entirety of Game of Thrones. 174 hours is over a week straight of cinematics. Metal Gear Solid 4 has nothing on Baldur's Gate 3 when it comes to cutscenes, and honestly, it's kind of mind-blowing. That being said, you're not going to see all 174 hours in one playthrough. The reasoning behind so much cinema is simple. According to the devs, all those options will ensure, quote, everyone's adventure will be unique, end quote. Baldur's Gate 3 comes to PC on August 3rd and PS5 September 6th. That was kind of what the post hoped you'd take away, in my estimation, but really, we're all just interested in those cinematics. There's so many of them. From the gates of Baldur to the first Gulf War, I'm not strong at segues, but you know what is strong? The original Nintendo Game Boy. We did it, everybody! Segway! What is perhaps the most famous charred Game Boy of all time is no longer on display at Nintendo New York, having been sent back to Nintendo's US headquarters in Redmond, Washington. We don't have an official reason for the move, but if I had to guess, it's because everyone agreed it's time this war-torn Game Boy took a little R&R in beautiful Washington State. If you don't know the story behind this relic of the early 1990s, an American serving in the Middle East during the first Gulf War wrote a letter to Nintendo Power asking if they could possibly replace his Game Boy. The portable console was one of the only things to have survived a fire that claimed the person's personal goods, but it only just barely survived. When the charred remains of the Game Boy found their way into Nintendo's hands, they popped in a copy of Tetris and flicked the power switch, and it started right up. In terrible condition, of course, with the D-pad and A and B buttons melted to uselessness, but the start and select buttons still worked, as did the screen. Not great, but it worked. It's been on display for decades now, a proud reminder of just how rugged Nintendo consoles have been built over the years. Well, mostly. My Wii U decided to stop working forever, but that's okay! Because all those games are on Switch now anyway, except for the one I really wanted to play, Wind Waker, but whatever. At least I know I can burn my Game Boy and it will still boot up like the mil-spec piece of hardware that it is.
To avoid running into Bethesda's massive space epic Starfield, the devs over at Larian made the smart move of pushing the release date for Baldur's Gate 3 up a month. Originally planned to release on August 31st, fans of the franchise can now expect to play the PC version on August 3rd. Now that's now a month ahead of Starfield, which is expected to release on September 1st. Now the PS5 release of Baldur's Gate 3, however, will hit the console September 6th, with the Xbox and Mac versions still without a release date. Now this new release date wasn't without a message to the global fans eagerly waiting for the release. Now Larian posted a community update saying the new release date, quote, means the PC version of Baldur's Gate 3 will be released at a time where you'll have more time to play it. Now they're clearly well aware of what will happen when Starfield is released, which could lead to many probably just abandoning the game to play with their new shiny toy in Starfield. Now the upcoming Bethesda game is definitely on every hardcore gamer's list, so giving fans of the Baldur's Gate franchise at least a month to enjoy it before its release is a smart move. And this was all by design. Now the founder and creative director over at Larian told us here at IGN, quote, there's always going to be competition in games coming out at the same time, but we had this PC version we were sitting on and we were saying there's a window there where players will be able to spend their time playing the games they want to play. They want to play Baldur's Gate 3, they want to play Starfield, they want to play Diablo, they want to play Final Fantasy. And there's only so much time they have in their busy gaming schedules. That's definitely a true statement, as there's so many games releasing, and yet there's not enough time between to really enjoy each of them. Unless, you really just put your social life on hold to sink countless hours into these games. Now, I tend to parse mine out. Now, it's all about time management, people, to be honest. But some of these games, like Final Fantasy and Baldur's Gate, tend to be so captivating that by the time you look up, you've spent 5 hours straight engulfed in the gameplay and narrative. It's not really a bad thing. So PC gamers can expect to play the third installment a month before Starfield, which should be enough time to complete the gameplay, or at least dive deep enough to feel comfortable with hopping into the driver's seat in Starfield when that drops a month later. Now, it's honestly just nice to know that the devs at Larian are confident enough with this product to release it a month earlier to get out of the way of a potential Game of the Year contender. I don't think anyone would complain about getting an anticipated game earlier than expected. Now y'all see the picture here. We just got confirmation that the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 will not have mouse and keyboard support on PC, so you're gonna have to use a gamepad to get those kills in. Now looking at the Steam page for the upcoming release, you'll notice it reads, quote, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection version requires a controller in order to play. Playing with a keyboard and mouse isn't supported. But honestly, this shouldn't be too much of a surprise, as these games weren't originally created with a mouse and keyboard in mind. Now this will likely upset a few gamers out there who solely game using mouse and keyboard. Hell, saying few is an understatement. I think many will be upset. It is kind of outrageous to not support PC inputs that have been used for decades now. Konami could put a little bit more effort to make sure that they accommodate for all gamers out there. Now, some might not purchase the game collection because they don't use a gamepad. But anyway, if you want to check out the Master Collection Volume 1, it releases across platforms October 24th. Now, sad news over at Niantic, as it recently laid off 230 employees and canceled that upcoming Marvel World of Heroes mobile game. And if you were playing that basketball mobile game they made, NBA All World, well, that's done. But Pokemon Go will still remain the company's priority. Now, the reason for the company layoff is, according to the company's founder, due to the studio's expenses growing faster than revenue. Now, he went on to say, quote, today's highly competitive mobile gaming market requires dazzling quality, and innovation. It also requires strong monetization and a social core, which can drive viral growth and long-term engagement. And the company unfortunately didn't meet those goals, but they're staying with the AR game with Pokemon Go, for those that are still playing that. And finally, there's an Avatar game in the works coming out this fall. And no, not the one with the blue giant aliens from Pandora. Game Mill Entertainment announced Avatar: The Last Airbender Quest for Balance, which will be an action-adventure game. Now, you'll be able to play solo or co-op using all the mystic powers seen in the hit animated series. Now, from the looks of it, it seems it'll be true to the animated show. There's even a glimpse of the Cabbage Merchant. Y'all love him, right? Yeah. Now, there will be 18 chapters to go through with 9 playable characters, and you can catch the game this fall, coming to all major platforms.
It's time to take a quick break. When we come back, Disney Plus is pulling original content from the platform, plus GTA 5 is returning to Game Pass. See you in a bit. Welcome back. The Disney Plus original show Creator has been pulled from the platform with seemingly no explanation. But first, we have a bit more gaming news to cover. Let's find out some more. Microsoft just announced that Grand Theft Auto 5 is returning to Xbox Game Pass today. In an Xbox Wire post, Microsoft showcased the next group of games arriving on Game Pass, which includes a stack of DLC for previously released games, including Forza Horizon 5's Barbie DLC, FIFA 23's Women World Cup DLC, Sniper Elite 5's Kraken Awakes DLC, and the Battle of Zhongyuan expansion for Wolong Fallen Dynasty. They also reminded us that Exoprimal is hitting the service July 15th, in case anyone forgot about that one game. The first appearance was in April 2020, but was removed about a month after and was replaced by Red Dead Redemption 2. GTA 5 returned a year later in April 2021, this time with additional support for Xbox Cloud Gaming. Then it was removed later that year in August and is now returning after 2 years off the subscription plan. GTA 5, of course, includes the incredible single-player story mode, as well as access to GTA Online, which has been getting consistent updates for almost a whole decade. What a time it is for GTA 5 to come back to Game Pass, since the subscription prices have also increased for the first time since its release in 2017. Starting tomorrow, July 6th, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate will cost $16.99 a month instead of $14.99, and the regular Xbox Game Pass for consoles will cost $10.99 a month, $1 more than what it originally was. But good news for PC users, PC Game Pass is staying at its current price of $9.99 a month. If you're keeping your Game Pass subscription or signing on, here are the games leaving Xbox Game Pass in July: XO1, Spelunky 2, and Paw Patrol the movie Adventure City Calls. It is a real loss seeing Paw Patrol leave the pass, but the trade-off being GTA, you know what? I guess crime pays. In what might be the weirdest leak, Microsoft believes Sony will release a PlayStation 5 Slim later this year. This statement from Microsoft came from a court document that was released as part of the Federal Trade Commission versus Microsoft trial to determine the fate of the proposed $69 billion, nice, buyout of Activision Blizzard. In this document, there was a paragraph on price in which Microsoft was attempting to convince Judge Jacqueline Scott Corley the Nintendo Switch should be seen in the same competitive market as the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5. In the final sentence in this paragraph, Microsoft states, PlayStation likewise sells a less expensive digital edition for $399.99 and is expected to release a PlayStation 5 Slim later this year at the same reduced price point. Microsoft went on to say in further statements that Sony is also anticipated to release a handheld version of PlayStation 5 later this year for under $300. Before you get too excited, this is referencing Sony's Project Q that was announced back in May at Sony's Summer Showcase. And while it is technically handheld, the fact that it needs to stream games directly from a PS5 seems to be kind of a monkey paw wish for anyone holding out hope for next-gen Vita. Sony hasn't given an official title, let alone price point for the Project Q, though it is expected before the end of this year. IGN reached out to Sony for comment, but haven't gotten a response as of shooting this video. A PS5 Slim is almost to be expected, since literally every generation of PlayStation has gotten a smaller redesign during its life cycle. The PS3 actually got 2 Slim versions. That said, learning about a possible PS5 Slim release this year through a Microsoft court document during an ongoing trial, that was not on my 2023 bingo card. If you haven't been keeping track, EA Sports FC is a brand new football game replacing the FIFA series following the game publishers split from the International Football Association. EA's new non-FIFA was announced in April, but no further details about the game were discussed until now. Reliable leaker Bill Kun revealed the release date of EA Sports FC to be September 29th, 2023. The annual FIFA installments usually dropped in August or September, so this isn't a huge surprise. Neither is the existence of a Standard and Ultimate Edition, which were also part of the leak. People who purchase the Ultimate Edition get early access to the game, and EA Play subscribers will get a 10-hour trial. Again, nothing too shocking in this leak, but take it with a grain of salt until we get an official statement from EA itself. FIFA was such a huge part of EA's catalog, so a lot of pressure is on EA Sports FC to continue the tradition of this football franchise. EA boss Andrew Wilson reportedly insisted the only value FIFA brought to the series was, quote, 4 letters on the front of the box. We'll see how that statement holds up since FIFA is also set to put out its own game. Aside from everything I just told you, we don't know much about EA Sports FC, but we're expecting more details later this month, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Jonathan Majors is under fire yet again. Rolling Stone published a new report that alleges the Creed 3 star has a history of abusive behavior dating back nearly a decade. Majors was arrested in March on charges of assault, strangulation, and harassment following a domestic dispute. Rolling Stone spoke to 24 sources about the matter who allege he behaved in a similar manner in previous relationships and while studying at Yale. According to one source, quote, "No one is surprised that this is coming out. It always felt like it was a matter of time because his behavior never changed. He's kind of a bad dude, and now it's just catching up with him." Another claimed, quote, "It was pervasively known that he was a good actor and that he would also terrorize the people he had dated." 9 individual sources allege that Majors strangled one of these women and was both mentally and emotionally abusive toward her. Majors has categorically denied these accusations, and his attorney David A. Pusch issued a statement claiming, quote, "These allegations are based entirely on hearsay because neither of the romantic partners referenced were willing to engage with Rolling Stone for the article, demonstrating their outright falsity." Claims have also been made about Majors on set recently, and during the production of his upcoming film Magazine Dreams, complaints were made to the producer that the actor pushed one person on set and physically intimidated another while screaming at them. Majors' lawyer chalks this up to his method acting, saying, quote, "Everyone who has worked with Mr. Majors knows that he employs an immersive method acting style, and while that can be misconstrued as rudeness at times, those who know Mr. Majors and work in the industry have attested to his dedication to his craft as well as his kindness." Whether they're true or not, these allegations are bad PR for Majors, and by association, any film project he's attached to. Most notably, it puts Marvel Studios in a pretty awkward position. Majors has been cast as Kang the Conqueror, the next major supervillain in the MCU. Much like Thanos was gradually built up as the big bad for Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, Majors' appearances in Loki Season 1 and Quantumania are laying the groundwork for Avengers the Kang Dynasty. Majors is expected to play a big role in Loki Season 2, which is already filmed and slated for an October premiere, as well as Magazine Dreams, which is also distributed by Disney and is expected in theaters in December. But before all that, the assault case goes to trial on August 3rd, and the outcome of that could have some pretty far-reaching repercussions. We'll keep you posted on this story as it develops. In other superhero movie news, it's time for your biannual update on the Spawn movie reboot. According to executive producer Jason Blum, it's in, quote, very active development and may actually be released by 2025. Maybe. Speaking to comicbook.com, the Blumhouse CEO explained, quote, "I would say that you have a lot to hope for because it's in very active development. Of course, that development has been rendered very inactive due to the current writer's strike. Still, even accounting for that, Blumhouse is optimistic, saying, quote, "My prediction is that maybe we'll actually see a Spawn movie in 25. No promises, but that's my prediction." I've been reporting on this for literally my entire career, and it's apparently been in the works since I was in middle school, so I'll believe it when I see it, or at the very least, when we get a trailer. And finally, to give you an idea of how busy news is on the Friday before a holiday weekend, the recently revealed Hot Toys 1/6 scale action figure of Supergirl is based on her appearance in the recent Flash movie, but based on the head sculpt, you might not realize it. Hot Toys, if you're unfamiliar, is a company that makes incredibly detailed and realistic high-end collectibles based on movies and other pop culture licenses. Usually, they bear an uncanny resemblance to the source material. However, fans have noted that the new Supergirl looks less like actress Sasha Calle and more like Tom Holland or Matt Smith. Now, bear in mind there's fine print along the sides of the images that reads "prototype shown is not final, pending licensor approval," and considering the backlash it's already gotten, it's pretty safe to assume it's going to get some major retooling before release. But that said, it's kind of surprising this one was deemed okay to reveal to the public. In Hot Toys' defense, they're usually phenomenal quality, and if you've never checked them out, look through some of the hundreds of figures they've made over the years, because they're awesome. The new Michael Keaton Batman from The Flash looks amazing, and I'm very curious to see what they show off at Comic-Con in a few weeks. Those things are always pretty cool to see on a show floor. A little bit anxiety-inducing when they're perched on the side of a shelf, because, you know, they're like $300.
It appears that Disney Plus is taking a page from the competition's playbook and removing content from the service. The original sci-fi movie Crater has been pulled from their lineup a mere 2 months after it debuted. Crater is, or I guess was, a sci-fi adventure flick about a group of teens living on the moon who decide to explore a mysterious crater. According to The Independent, the budget for the movie came in at $53.4 million, and it's received favorable reviews with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 64%. So, what happened? Of course, Disney hasn't even acknowledged they've pulled the movie from the service, but a search on the US version of Disney Plus turns up with nothing. Rival service Max, owned by Warner Bros. Discovery, has also taken heat for removing original content from the platform with no official reason given. There's some speculation it has to do with avoiding paying royalties. The rules are fairly clear-cut in regards to how actors and filmmakers are compensated for more traditional forms of media distribution, but streaming is still kind of a gray area, which was one factor that led to the ongoing WGA writer's strike. Generally speaking, actors, depending on their contract, make more money if a movie they're in makes a certain amount at the box office. That's pretty straightforward when you're dealing with ticket sales, but big-budget original streaming movies are effectively free to subscribers paying for the service. So you can see why studios might be pinching pennies. Those royalty payments for streaming content could be eating into profits for those companies, and it might make more financial sense to just remove certain movies or shows from the service instead of paying up. Of course, individual contracts between talent or crew and the studios making content aren't usually public, so we're only speculating. In the case of Disney, specifically CEO Bob Iger has already made it known they plan to cut content from Disney Plus. Via Variety, Iger is trying to save about $3 billion this year after losing about $1 billion on the service. The company also faces a content impairment charge of $1.5 to $1.8 billion. A content impairment charge is basically what corporations write down in their accounting books to write off assets that have declined in value. Simply said, Disney has expensive assets that have lost value, and they're looking to save money somewhere. The removal of content from streaming services has raised alarms regarding media preservation. With less physical media like Blu-rays being made and sold, streaming may be the only way audiences will get to watch anything, and if a provider removes content from the service, it could effectively be lost forever. Are you worried that your favorite streaming service will start deleting content? And when's the last time that you bought a movie or show on Blu-ray? Let me know in the comments. In kind of related news, Amazon Citadel is reportedly a flop. The spy thriller was meant to be the first season in a huge connected franchise and reportedly lost $250 million. Yikes. In a report from Bloomberg, not only did critics not care for the show, the Amazon Prime audience didn't turn up either, with ratings tanking since its debut. Citadel premiered on April 28th of this year, and since then it has failed to break into the 10 most watched streaming shows in the US. However, it did briefly enter Prime's own top 10 for streaming originals, so that's something. Citadel is an ambitious spy thriller that even before hitting Prime already had several multi-language spin-offs in the works, and those shows were supposedly all set in the same cinematic universe and tied into a larger narrative. Amazon hasn't removed it from the Prime Video service yet, and several of the spin-offs are still happening apparently. Switching gears, Five Nights at Freddy's producer Jason Blum wants to turn more game franchises into movies. Via discussing film, Blum said, quote, "I think the right video games make great source material for movies. I mean, you saw that even with the Super Mario Bros. Movie. It's a different genre, but it's an amazingly successful movie." He's not wrong about that. The Mario Bros. Movie, it's made $1.3 billion in theaters worldwide, which is why Blum wants to lean harder into game adaptations. He and filmmaker James Wan, the man behind the Conjuring and Insidious film franchises, have a company together and are working to build out a games division. Probably not to make games, but to adapt games into movies. He said Wan is a, quote, big gamer and is looking to adapt more games into movies. They already have their next target, Dead by Daylight. But in the meantime, we'll see how Five Nights at Freddy's turns out when it hits theaters this October. And speaking of terrifying, fuzzy animal mascot-looking creatures, the upcoming Barney movie may not be for kids. Via The New Yorker, the Daniel Kaluuya-led film is more for grown-ups. Mattel exec Kevin McKeon said, quote, "We're leaning into the millennial angst of the property rather than fine-tuning this for kids." It'll focus on some of the trials and tribulations of being 30-something, growing up with Barney, just the level of disenchantment within the generation. Really, it makes sense. While some people might be nostalgic for Barney, he didn't have quite the same staying power or legacy as other shows made for young children like Sesame Street or Thomas the Tank Engine. Barney hasn't been on the air since 2010, so anyone who has fond memories of the purple dinosaur in 2023 is likely approaching adulthood. I'm personally eagerly awaiting Michael Bay's gritty take on Paw Patrol in 2038.
We ride together. We die together. Bad boys for life.
Come on, you'd watch it. Bad Boys 2 with dogs? Anyways, the Barney project is still in early development and it's being pitched to partners as an A24 type film. So that puts it anywhere between Marcel the Shell and Hereditary. In the meantime, Mattel does have another big screen property coming out very soon, the Barbie movie, which is going head to head with Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer in just a few weeks. Which one are you seeing first? Let me know in the comments. I am totally doing a 2 showing day and I'm wearing all pink to Oppenheimer. I don't care. I'm Stella Chung, and that was your weekly fix. We'll be back here next Saturday with more of the biggest gaming and entertainment news of the week. See you then.